The envelope felt heavy in my hands, far heavier than paper and ink should ever be. It was just a bank statement, but holding it in the silence of my new spacious kitchen, I finally understood the price of the fortune my late husband had left me. This house wasn't a home anymore. It was the beautiful, empty stage where my family fell apart. For most of my life, wealth was a foreign country I only read about. Robert, my husband, was a kind, quiet man who worked as an engineer. We built a simple, happy life in a cozy 3-bedroom house, filled with the sounds of our daughter, Chloe, laughing and running through the halls. We were comfortable but never rich. Our currency was love, and for years it felt like more than enough. Chloe was our joy, a bright girl with her father's thoughtful eyes. We saved for her college, celebrated her achievements, and dreamed of her future. I never imagined that future would one day exclude me. Robert's diagnosis was a swift and brutal storm. Pancreatic cancer. Within 6 months, the steady, gentle anchor of my life was gone. In the wake of his passing, I was adrift in a sea of grief. The only life raft was his life insurance policy, a multi-million-dollar sum I never knew existed. He had kept it a secret, a final grand gesture to secure my future. Overnight, my world shifted from one of emotional loss to one of bewildering financial gain. I paid off the mortgage, moved to a safer, more elegant neighborhood, and tried to build a new life from the ashes of the old. At first, Chloe was my rock. "You deserve this, Mom," she'd say, her arm linked with mine as we toured houses. "Dad wanted you to be secure?" I heard the warmth in her voice, but I missed the faint, almost imperceptible shift in her gaze when she looked at the gleaming granite countertops and the sweeping staircase. It was a look I mistook for shared triumph, not the first flicker of a coming storm. The first crack appeared 6 months after I moved. Chloe had been dating Mark for a year, a young man with a slick smile and ambitious eyes. They came over for dinner, and over dessert, they laid out their plan. They wanted to start a business, a high-end boutique, and they needed a seed investment. "Think of it as an advance on my inheritance, Mom," Chloe said, her tone breezy, as if she were asking for a recipe. "It's not like you need it all. This way, you're investing in our future." The amount they named was staggering, enough to buy our old house twice over. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. This wasn't a request. It was an expectation. I told them I needed to think, that it was a huge decision, that I wanted to consult a financial advisor. The air in the room chilled instantly. Mark's smile vanished, and Chloe's face hardened into a mask I didn't recognize. "I knew it," she said, her voice low and sharp. "The money changed you. You've become greedy." She stood up, grabbing her purse. "Dad would have helped us." And with that, they left. The silence they left behind was louder than any slamming door. That was the moment the foundation of our relationship shattered. The betrayal began to unfold in slow, painful chapters. First, it was the silence. My calls went to voicemail, my texts unanswered for days. Then I saw the social media posts, photos of her and Mark on lavish vacations, captioned with cryptic quotes about building your own empire and cutting off dead weight. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. I was the dead weight. The pressure escalated. Family members I rarely spoke to began calling, gently probing about my newfound wealth and subtly suggesting how I could share it. I later learned Chloe had told them I was hoarding the money, that I had refused to help her with a modest loan for a medical emergency. The lie was so bold, so vicious, it took my breath away. I felt cornered, not just emotionally but socially. My own family saw me as a monster. The loneliness was the most profound cost. I'd sit in my formal dining room, eating a solitary meal off a fine china plate, and stare at the empty chair across from me. I missed the noisy, cramped dinners in our old kitchen. I missed my daughter. The house was a gilded cage, and every receipt for a costly repair, every quiet meal, was a reminder of the ordinary, priceless life I had lost. The turning point came from an unexpected source, my old neighbor, Sarah. She called me one afternoon, her voice hesitant. "Eleanor, I hate to be the one to tell you this," she began, "but I ran into Chloe last week." My heart leapt with a foolish hope. Then Sarah continued, "She was at the garden center. She told me, and anyone who would listen, that she was landscaping her new home. She said you'd gifted them the money for a house because you felt too guilty to keep it all for yourself." The world tilted. I had done no such thing. The revelation reframed everything. This wasn't just a rift. It was a campaign. My own daughter was crafting a narrative where I was the villain, and she was the wronged princess, all to justify her anger and her own lavish spending. The power balance shifted in that moment. I was no longer just a grieving, confused mother. I was someone who needed to protect herself. I didn't scream or cry. I simply thanked Sarah and hung up. Then I got to work. My grief solidified into a quiet, steely resolve. I met with my attorney, a calm and efficient woman named Mrs. Davies. We did not discuss revenge. We discussed protection. I updated my will, creating an ironclad trust that would provide Chloe with a comfortable life, but would never grant her a lump sum large enough to be exploited. The bulk of the estate was designated for charities Robert and I had loved. Next, I hired a forensic accountant. I needed a complete, unassailable picture of my finances, a fortress of facts. I gathered every document, every bank statement, every record of my own spending. I was composed, methodical. This was my dignified response. The confrontation happened at my lawyer's office. Chloe and Mark arrived, confident and smiling, likely expecting a check. The air was cold and sterile. Mrs. Davies did the talking. She calmly laid out the new terms of the will. She then presented them with a document, a single sheet of paper outlining the trust's conditions. "This ensures your mother's wishes and your father's legacy are respected," she said. Chloe's face went from smug to ashen. Mark shot up from his chair. "This is an insult. You can't do this." Then I spoke, my voice quieter than theirs, but somehow filling the room. "I already have." I looked only at my daughter. "I know about the story you've been telling. The one about the house I supposedly bought you." Her eyes widened in shock. "That money was your father's final gift to me. It was meant to be my security, not your startup fund. My love for you was never supposed to have a price tag." The truth landed not with a shout, but with the weight of finality. They had nothing left to say. There was no dramatic reconciliation. Chloe left that office, and our relationship entered a new, distant phase. The boundaries, however, were finally set. The calls from relatives stopped. The social media posts ceased. The storm had passed. I still live in the big house, but now I share it, volunteering to host charity events and book clubs, filling its rooms with new, gentle purpose. The money is now a tool, not a trap. I learned that while money can reveal a person's true character, it doesn't have to define your own. Sometimes, the most profound act of love is a dignified goodbye to what you thought it was supposed to be. If this real-life story resonated with you, please share your own reflections in the comments below. For more calm, emotional stories about family and life, remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.